Abiba Fahodiye, Race First Black Family. Welcome back once again to the School of Urban Philosophy, where we are always straight up, straightforward, and straight to the point, where we use information to empower and raise the consciousness of Black people. That is one of our central focuses, to raise Black consciousness, to restore Black thought to the center of the Black mind. Because the Black mind is, in fact, what we must be concerned with. There's a war being waged for the Black mind. There's a vicious war. The war is so vicious that we don't oftentimes recognize the tactics and the strategies that are being utilized to undermine, threaten, suppress, and stomp out the spirit of Black people. See, it is the Black spirit that have gave birth to the Black world. And it's the Black spirit that is feared. So everything is done to keep Black people from realizing the power of the Black spirit. It is the duty of the Pan-African Liberation Movement. It's the duty of PLM to do everything in our power to raise Black consciousness, to restore Black consciousness within Black people. This is the struggle. This is the fight. This is what it's all about. This is the Black Forum. This is where we do that at. This is where we engage the necessary topics to raise Black consciousness. We're not here to entertain anyone. We're not here to take part in any of the antics that are going on. We can care less about the antics and the entertainment, even though we are aware that many of our people enjoy the antics and the entertainment. But we cannot, in good conscience, take part in the entertainment and the antics. We must do the work of the ancestors. We must stand on the shoulders of the ancestors. We must stay true to the divine and ancestral mission. Raise up strong Black men and Black women. Build strong Black families. Build strong Black children. Assume the responsibility of pushing the Black race forward. Initiate the African cultural renaissance. This is who we are. This is what we seek to do. This is what we stand on. This is the mandate. And we call forth unto all our people. We ask that you join us on this sacred mission, this divine duty to raise Black consciousness. And with that, I want to say one blood to my comrades, the ones who have joined me here tonight.
Counterclockwise.
Counterclockwise.
Oh, we got another one.
Hey.
Oh, we still get the audio.
So how is everyone feeling?
Strong.
Powerful.
Sound like someone has an echo over there. No delay probably, but no, we work it out. The Black spirit is that powerful. The Black, hey, we have to speak that way because that is the truth. See, for us, divinity is Black, right? We ought to understand that. You know what I'm saying? Our divinities are Black, and they're Black for a reason. Because that is the power. That's the essence. That's the source. That's what this is about. We have to hold that up. Restore Black pride. Restore that divine Blackness. You know. What's on your minds, comrades?
Everybody else okay?
What's up, Bob?
What's up?
Always a pleasure coming on here, being able to, engage, with my comrades and, and build with them. Um, Lately on my spirit has been just where our people are emotionally as well as, energy wise. I think that when it comes to, doing the work like, you so adamantly spoke, I don't really see a lot of the deep interest. I don't see a lot of, that enthusiastic, morale. And that has to be built. It really has to be built in order for our people to, in my opinion, to really put in that work and put in that forward motion. Because the work got to be done, and it takes a lot of discipline, it takes a lot of sacrifice and commitment to something. I mean that is dire and it is need, but at the same time, being able to start those building blocks towards what we're building. So I see that's one of the struggles that I see, trying to get, people to really step in the same capacity, and when I find myself, being a little burnt out, I call to the ancestors, I get in front of the altar, I reach out to one of my comrades, and I'll call and I'll talk and just, be able to get it out there and just get some reinforcement to reassure me, because it can be trying sometimes, and I think that most people look at it as like, oh, they think that we do it effortlessly and easy. No, it's times where we gotta really sit in front of the elders and the ancestors and really humble ourselves to receive, that guidance to continue the journey on and move, because all of us got families, but we here and we committed.
On my mind, yeah. This weekend is what's on my mind. That's what's going on in my mind. So I have been, I guess, for the past month, maybe month and a half, just gearing my mind towards the topic that's been presented. So for those who are new, just tuning in, we have our second Race First Symposium this Sunday, 3 to 5 p.m. I know we usually do an announcement at the end, but I'm going to shoot that out right now. 3 to 5 p.m. this Sunday at 5525 Hartford Road in Baltimore. So if you're free, come on through. I don't even know if we're doing if we're gonna have it streamed, but we'll figure that one out. But Bobby, you can let us know what it's looking like. But this weekend has been on my mind because a brother got his hair done today. Getting ready, and I was sitting. The particular owner that was doing my hair, she was opinionated. I had a lot of different opinions about Black unity. Now she is from Jamaica, right? So when she initially came to the U.S., it was a lot of, go back to your banana boat kind of attitude and disposition. So, she kind of carried that with her over the years. So the entire time I'm getting my hair done, we're having a conversation about, putting things in context, just talking about, Black people getting together, what that looks like, what it should looks like, some of the struggles that we've been having. Hey, girl. So that is what's been on my mind, is not only this weekend, but Black consciousness, revolutionary consciousness, Black family building. I think that has been like the cornerstone that is pervasive in a lot of areas that we kind of overlook. And like one of the aspects we was talking about like the street activity going on in like some of the inner cities. So many of us know like the different gangs, the different sets, things of that nature going on. And she was of the mindset that those Black people who are engaging in that, they just gotta travel somewhere else. They gotta see something different in order to get them out of it. And I said, well, that is one perspective. I said, but another perspective that sometimes often missed is that when you, especially depending on the time period, some of those youth that have been engaging in a lot of that activity, they have family ties with, and a lot of times we don't perceive it, but they got family ties with some of the older people that have been doing things in the streets. So a lot of times we kind of miss that point, because while many of us have certain constitutions that we have for ourselves, a lot of times we don't realize, like, we got our personal constitution, but if that favorite cousin of ours, or if that brother, that favorite sister, whatever the case may be, if they ask us to do something, we may roll up and go do something for them. So, that was one of many things that we done talked on. So that's been on my mind. It's been a lot, but just drop that little jewel right there.
Now, very well said. This weekend is anticipated. I was just speaking with Baba Adisa about this weekend, and I said that I'm expecting you to be ready and prepared, because I have some questions that I am going to throw out there. And I'm throwing the questions out there with the intent of catching you off guard. That's how I'm coming at you. As a moderator, I'm not your typical Bobby Imhotep. I'm not your colleague or comrade Bobby Imhotep when I'm moderating. You know what I'm saying? I'm the other. And my intent is to come at you. You know what I'm saying? So you just be ready and just be prepared. That's what it's all about. But let me put this on the floor, because all of you know that I had this in the year 2024. I've experienced 6 deaths. Right. And I remember about 25 years ago, 22 probably, I did a presentation while I was incarcerated. I talked about death. One of the guys asked me to talk about death because they had experienced death. And I spoke about it. But I've since I've been out here in this particular society, one thing that we typically don't talk about death. And I want to talk about death, right? And I want to talk about death because what have happened to us being amongst these people if we have made death in our minds a stranger. So when death appears, it has an impact upon us as something antagonistic towards us. The hurt that people experience is a hurt that's oftentimes associated with something have happened to them, rather than seeing it from a joyous position of someone, making his or her departure back into a place or a space or a sphere of spirit reality that's more receptive to him or her in that particular moment. And I think that we have to reorientate ourselves how we think about and understand death, right? So for me, and hopefully for all of you, because we of the same thought systems, death occurs, it happens. And yes, anytime you have a relationship with any person, and someone leaves that relationship, whether by force or by choice, there is going to be a tear, because if the relationship is strong, there's psychological bondedness that have occurred. If it's a good relationship, psychological bondedness have occurred. So you and that person or persons are connected in an intimate way. So when one of you make a transition, yes, there's going to be a tear there, and you're going to feel something. But death doesn't have to immobilize you, right? And let me be real clear, because I don't want no one out there that's listening to be offended by what I'm saying. So I'm going to speak from my point of view. So a person don't have to personalize it, like, oh man, he's saying this, that, because I'm not here to do that, but I'm here to bring forth a perspective and some understanding, right? So for me, when I experienced this year, in the year 2024, those 6 transitions, each one of those transitions was with someone that was connected to me in a very psychological way. We had a deep relationship, a deep connection. So when that person made his or her transition, I felt that initially. But it didn't immobilize me because I knew also in the same instance, I knew that him or she were not gone from me in the absolute sense. I knew that we were not absolutely departed one from the other. I understood that he or she no longer resided here physically, but yet I possessed the power to keep him or her here with me based on how I understood them and their essence and what I'd done for their essence while I was here for them. So I was not immobilized by it. I was not shut down. You know, I did not feel overwhelmed. I was not suppressed, as you know, some of us tend to experience. I was able to still feel relief and joy, but yes, I reminisce about them because they are physical moments that are meaningful. And so I want to hold on to those physical moments that were meaningful. So that's reminiscence. But I also understand that through reminiscing about these individuals and keeping their names alive and keeping their essence alive, I can still feel them in the truest sense of the word, what it means to feel. I can feel them in an intimate way rather than in a physical way. So in knowing that, I was able to continue to do and move and do what's needed to be done. Now, that's not to say that because we experience transition, that others should not pour into us. Not to say that. I'm not limited to that. We should, because whenever transition occurs within a family or community, that whole entire family, that whole entire community is transformed because the individual is transformed. And that person or that member of the family or community who's transformed in an instance subsequently in a ripple effect transforms that community. So the process that we know as grief, that's a process, that's a shared process. It's a process we go through as a family or community. We walk through it together as a family or community, but we celebrate the essence and the spirit of those who have departed, those who have moved on, those who have transitioned. Their essence and their spirit is celebrated, and we memorialize them, and by doing so, we keep them alive based upon the good that they have deposited within the material realm. So I wanted to share that, but I want to hear your thoughts. You know, I know I said a whole lot, I said a mouthful. Even if you feel like you want to just echo what I say, it's all gravy. But let me hear what you got to say.
So I think the biggest death in my life has been of my father. In my personal, internally, I have I understand that his spirit is always with me. You know, I find myself going to the altar and talking to him, and you know, and confiding in him. But in public and in community, I haven't allowed myself to allow the healing of my closest loved ones to be there for me. And it's a struggle for me. Not because I don't understand the process of death, because I do, but because I don't know how to be vulnerable publicly and community wise, because what's coming to my mind is that, you know, like sometimes we think that people expect us to be a certain way or respond a certain way. And I haven't gotten to that point where I can be like, and I want to though. I want to be able to be amongst the community and be able to go through a process where I can actually speak about him, let out whatever I need to let out, and allow the community to be able to reinforce me. Right? So that I can move socially, and be okay. I don't want to be only okay when I'm to myself. You know, I want to be able to have freely, you know, talk to my mother or talk to my brother or talk to, you know, my comrades about it. You know, and I think that's just that transition. You know, I think some of us, when we go, what I know personally myself is, you know, I've gone through the personal process, but I need to go through the external and the social process of, you know, allowing that to be, you know, because sometimes it's hard for me to even speak about them.
Shame.
You know, to other people, you know, because I think that emotionally, you know, I'm good on it. I'm good on the inside, but I'm not good with expressing on the outside. You know, so I think that, you know, that's why I like certain time I might pull away from people, or I might pull away from certain things, you know, because, you know, I just feel like I don't know how I'm supposed to act or respond, because I haven't acted or responded, I mean, outwardly about how I feel. Is what I'm saying making any sense?
Yes, and I'll add to that. I think, first of all, comrade, I appreciate your vulnerability because it's good for us to see that vulnerability of the Black man. And I thank you for that. And what I hear you elevating is the power of our communal response to ancestral veneration. Us being able to socialize in a way where we have a certain acceptance of what this experience is, you know, and know how it talks about spirit being us having this spirit living experience. If we truly understand what Nomo was talking about spirit being divine, us being divine as humans, we begin to accept what this idea of ancestral veneration is. It is a celebration. It is a raising of consciousness into another realm of consciousness. We don't see it as an ending. We don't see it as a heaven or hell. We don't see it as that type of dogmatic experience. We see it as a continuation. You know, Bob and I have talked about this concept of the social past. If we truly embrace this concept of the social past, we know that our ancestors are on this continuum with us, the past, the present, the future, and the now. And when we really wrap our minds around that, we're not so much caught up in the incident that happened or the scenario that happened. We can celebrate the elevation that's happening, the evolving that's happening. We can see it just as we see a rites of marriage, the union. We can see it as the birth coming, the ancestor returning, because that now is an ancestor returning back to another realm of consciousness. And I think that when we socialize ourselves, when we create an ecosystem amongst us that see that spirit living aspect, we can be okay with how we process it in our own time, in the shower, you know, sitting on the edge of our bed. We can also process it when we're in community because we have that shared ideology. We have that shared understanding. Y'all feel me? You know,
Yeah, I do.
yes.
I do.
Even this week, you know, just today, I lost one of my aunts transitioned, and Baba Tamim had an aunt that transitioned this week. And I'm talking with my family, and the way I handle this transformation in our family is very different from 10 years ago. There was no tears shedded today. I could listen and listen carefully. I could support my sister who was very close to my aunt and, you know, hold space for her to reminisce, because Nomo talks about that remembering process too. That helps us too. So holding space to remember, to celebrate those memories. And at the same time, we could probably get into this a little later, but it's so in alignment because I was just talking with a group of women yesterday about ancestral veneration. Not everybody becomes an ancestor when they transition, and how even in the spirit realm, spirits have to be elevated. And we got on this whole concept of atonement. You know, not everybody's name needs to be called. And when we call names, we need to know the intention and the intent behind what we're invoking, and empowering them to do. We need to think about the layers of their work and their life, because that continues on. So that Uncle, Junior, who raised sand down here on earth, as we elevate that energy, we know when it's time to go to war, when it's time to get some things done in the spirit realm, we know who to call on, who to call for. So it's a beautiful thing to really have that shared experience as a community. I'm very much appreciative of PLM and this new worldview, this African worldview that I have on ancestral veneration.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mama Gainer. That I just during this we had the per learning space and I Sunday, and I spoke in the beginning about how I looked around because Mama Gainer had did a ritual basically in gathering ritual where getting everyone, to work together, to build energy together, to build spirit together. And how I seen that some people were a little hesitant about connecting and letting go, right? And that kind of remind me of not, being so out of tune with our culture that we don't know how to process death because we've been so Europeanized, like to celebrate, death represents to recognize life. Like what I do is whenever I do think about my father, I call my mother because, I don't want him being gone to put me in a space where being around her reminds me of him and I'll pull away from her. So I'll reach out to her and I talk to her, or I'll reach out to my brother and I'll talk to him, or I'll reach out to one of my older sisters and we'll have a conversation, or I'll go past our house and we'll sit down and we'll talk. And we'll talk about his life. We'll talk about what he did and the stuff we learned. And that's how we keep, him alive. We keep him alive in a higher part of who we are, But when we only focus on the death, it's like we overlook the life that is there, the life that is still there, but in just a different realm. And I'll leave with that. Thank you.
I didn't know if we still had happened. Brother, you want to get in, man? You want to get in or how you feeling? I'm about to go, but I ain't want to go. You about to hop off.
Yeah, I wanted to get in. My experience is kind of similar to a decent, because when my father passed away, I didn't we didn't really have a relationship and none of that, but I still went to the funeral. And the beauty out of it was that I got to meet all my family members and this, that, and the third that I never met before in my life. I met my grandmother for the first time, stuff like that. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins, and a few of my cousins I was actually away with, and we didn't even know we was cousins. And it was kind of crazy. But what the good with it was is that me and my older brother, we still talk to this day, even though we only knew each other for 2 years. And because he was more around my father, I can ask him certain questions, and he never hesitate to answer a question about him or talk about him, I never feel I always thought in my younger days that I would always have some kind of hatred towards him or whatever. But what was crazy about it was that at the funeral he had so many people that worked for him and that really knew him that really ain't had nothing bad to say about him. And I was just sitting there listening, and I was just it just blew me away, the kind of person I heard from different people, not just family members, but friends and people that work for him and stuff like that. So that made it like kind of like easier because I didn't have a relationship with him. And then on top of that, I was at his funeral and stuff like that. And then I didn't really know nobody, you know what I mean? But like I said, just having that relationship with my older brother now, it just kind of like bring everything into like a full circle, you know what I mean? And it's like a good thing. But like it just was like real like different to me because I always thought like because he wasn't around, I would have some kind of like hatred, animosity, and like I didn't, you know, and like I really felt good about that. I didn't try to make myself feel mad or question why I'm not mad or nothing like that. It just was like a natural thing because at the end of the day, like that's just like it's my father, but you know what I mean. And, it kind of get hard like to talk about it sometimes when I want to talk to her about my mother because of the way their relationship was or stuff like that. But I feel as though it's just all worked out for like the good. I got to really like have a relationship with my family members on that side, which I still got to this day. We haven't missed a beat in the last like 2.5 years, almost 3 years, and like it's like a good thing.
So I was going to jump in and share a little bit because you know, as we. Oh, were you going to jump in?
No.
You get
All
right. I don't want to step on no toes. So, you know, just in talking about, and I had to just, you know, go back to my notes from the Per Learning Space the other day. Baba, he elevated a quote that came out of Kemet. In the absence of a name, a person ceases to exist. And I think that holds true. It really does. And I think that sometimes when we look at death as finite, final, that's it, that's the end, we don't allow ourselves the ability to really see the joy in our ancestor reaching just a different level, right? And when we allow ourselves space to have that process, especially in community, because you know when my mom transitioned, I look back on that day, even through the hurt that it felt on that day, but I feel so much joy at how my community was there, right? I remember Mama Gina was on the phone with me. I did a video call as I'm driving there. I'm losing my mind. I get there, and so she heard that process. She was in a very intimate space. My comrade was in a very intimate space with me as I was going through this life-changing moment. And she was there within maybe like a half hour and helped me to wash my mother before she was taken away. That's a bonding experience that happened. And then even afterwards, the community just continued to support me. Not just in a, hey, are you okay? But this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm very much I'm okay, I'm good, I got it. But it was invasive. Baba likes to say to be invasive with your community, and it definitely was, and it was exactly what I needed, because otherwise I might not have allowed myself to let those walls down and to go through the process that I needed to go through. I was taken to the river, I was prayed with, right? I was guided through that process. A lot of us, we're not guided through the process of understanding what a transition is. It's like Baba said earlier, it's something that just happens to us and not something that we're able to really move through in a healthy way. And so, you know, just being able to experience that amongst community and amongst my comrades, it felt good, it felt safe, it felt healing, because prior to that, the way that I looked at it was very, very different.
Cool. Just for those that's watching in who may not necessarily know anything about you or your affiliations, and we typically use the word community real loosely. You know, could you kind of like be specific so people can know like the reference point?
Yeah, absolutely. So the women surrounding me, I remember Mama Ife, she coordinated something so that the women could come to my mother's house to stand with me, to pray, to let me just cry and scream and do what I needed to do to purge and release that. And I remember, I know that at some point, I can't remember if it was before or after my mother's transition, but one thing that I really came to value was the fact that within PLM, we have like a calendar of our ancestors, right? So we share our ancestors, born days and transition dates so that we can kind of be aware of that energy, right? We can know like, oh, okay, that day's coming up. Let me make sure I check in. Let me make sure I'm more just aware of my comrades' energy. And so just really having that foundation, right? Really having that, I don't know, I don't even know what to call it. It's almost surreal because I feel like I don't think most people get that. And that's something that as African people would really shift the dynamic significantly if we're able to normalize that, if we're able to normalize the process of transition as a collective effort to move through it.
Cool.
And in the PLM, Pan African Liberation Movement, we have a women's society and a men's society. And what Mama Tiombe is speaking about is the Ma'at Society. The Ma'at Society showed up under the leadership of Mama Ife. And as the women of PLM, we came in duty, in service, in love to aid our sisters. That's what we mean by to aid our sisters and brothers in this struggle for liberation, being able to see things differently, to give her a different experience than she may have had if we weren't there. And the communal part that we hear is Baba Tamim was the one after both his parents transitioned. Spirit revealed to him, we need a way to not only honor our birthdays, but to honor our ancestors. So he was the one. He's the spreadsheet guy. He's like, all right, we're gonna put these, and then we're gonna attach them to the calendars so we can be aware of each other. So when you hear us talking about socialization and how we educate ourselves, this is it. Even as we talk about the ancestors, even as we talk about how to stay connected with each other, these are the different ways everybody gotta pour in to us as a unit. So the PLM community, that's how we move. That's urban camaraderie. That's the ability to be able to see my brother and sister in a different way. It might have felt squeamish. I knew when I heard my sister's voice in the shivering in her voice, the squeal, the outright cry, I had to get to where she was. And
You had to drop everything.
I had to drop everything. And not to get too graphic, but to one, see someone deceased and I'm cleaning blood from her face. Trying to be calm, trying to be the voice of reason, saying ancestors guide me through this experience. So this will become a state of an awakening that both of us is experiencing together. And it sounded like it was. That's the type of courage we have to have when we talk about building communities.
Again, can you speak about how doing that, how you seen how it actually helped? Because it helped Pops out too, it helped Pops out because y'all being there and us showing up, Mama Tiambe wasn't the only one going through it. It was a lot.
Who's Pops?
Pops is
My fault.
Yeah, it's my father too, my pops. But you know, I think that we got to speak about how community shows up in a manner where as though it radiates out.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
starts from the center and it radiates out to be able to cover everything. You had mamas coming by with food. You had all kinds of things. I even had mamas coming to me and making sure that I was, showing up in the right capacity. I was there, but some of it I didn't know what to do. I'm sitting there like rubbing on her head. And I'm looking like, she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, because at the time I'm like, I gotta be there for her, but I'm getting sound advice from mamas like, well, look, you need to do this and do that and do that. And us being able to come together as a community and support each other in that manner, right? That's collective work right there.
Yes.
You can't have community if you're not aware of your members. You don't know what's going on with each other. So we got to be able to have that shared space, and that creates that sacredness. Whereas though that you carry a person with you, that has been through the muck with you, that's been through the lowest part. You sitting there and you crying snot out your nose, and they wiping your face. That's a bonding experience. That person, is there with you. Through the most trying times, and that's what community is supposed to be about.
DC, you brought up an excellent point. When you asked a question about her dad, because one of the things, and that was a couple of years ago, but we gained respect from her family in a different way. How they look at us and how they engage with us as a community is very different from before. When we have an event, they're supporting, they coming, they're showing up. That allows for us, as for those who call themselves Pan-Africanists, for those who call themselves revolutionaries, and you compartmentalize your entire life, that's not the way. You see, when we model and when we do the work and we live the work, every aspect of our life becomes this movement. And sometimes folks have a fear that, oh, my father, my parents, they're not going to accept this. Oh, they want to see this African stuff, this black. Be unapologetic. Tiame did not care who it was. She didn't call her sister-in-law into the space. She didn't call this person or that person. She called her comrade. And her comrade showed up. And her brothers, her dad, they respect me for it. We're connected in a different way because they are experiencing this collective consciousness amongst us. So, that's a very powerful shift that happened, even within her family. And I give thanks for that ancestor being able to elevate us in that way.
Well, welcome after that, but that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going after that. No bad. But I do want to elevate that when we're talking about getting past mobilization as a result of that tearing. I think we touched on it. You gotta have family. You gotta have your people who are around you, who, at the drop of a dime. And you gotta be vulnerable. So if you're feeling that place of being stuck, whoever is your day one, whoever is your ride or die, whoever it is that, if you got something going on with you, they'll drop what they'll do to either talk to you or figure some things out. You got to be able to be open with those people, because, and I guess this goes back to what I was talking about earlier. It's that family piece. And if it's not, a lot of times, I'm saying family, we think blood relatives. It's not necessarily the blood family. Now, if you have that, great. So you use your blood family if you got it. And if you don't have it, then you got to pull on your other family. You got to pull on those, the I've been so close with you. We've been through so much. we brothers, we cousins, we whatever the case may be. You got to pull on your family to get through some things, especially in mobilization. I know I got both parents and my closest sister, so yeah.
We cannot operate from an individualistic perspective. We are communal people. And the ancestors teach us that in that realm of consciousness, and we are learning it here in this earthly realm. Look at the ancestor returning. She reminded us, I came back a baby. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, you don't know healing until you actually become a part of a authentic African-centered community. You really don't. I was healed through. I remember we went through a process with a brother. I'm not gonna mention his name, where Baba had got him together because he had lost a parent, and we went through a process. And as he was healing, I was healing. You know, because I was there with him. You know, with the drumming, with the interaction, with the building. It was a sacred space that, you know, we were able to just be able to experience spirit in its divineness. And I was healed through that. You feel what I'm saying? It was so many different community rituals that I've been through for other people that I vicariously lived through it and was healed. You know, it was helped, it was inspired, it was emotions clearing way for clarity and things like that. You know, so it's important for us to fight for this. We gotta fight for this, you know. And the one thing about it is, you know, like even you, Baba, you going through what you went through, you still made sure that, you know, you still show up in the capacity that you always show up in, you know. But at the same time, you know that you have us, whatever you need, you know, to be there, to hold this down, to do that, you know. And that's what community is supposed to be for, you know. Never should somebody in the community going through something and we know that have to ask or say anything. We should automatically go straight to them. Automatically, we should be the one starting the conversation because we are aware of things. Like, oh, what's going on? You all right? Do we need to talk? You need this? Let me get the boys so you can have some time. Let me do this. Let me do that. These are the things that we have to do in order for us to be able to make the transition in the process, you know, that more organic.
Hey, Adisa, I had a question. That event that you was talking about, was that at my house when we had the pool also there?
Oh, this was at
Yes.
Yeah, that was one of them.
That's one of them, yeah.
Yeah, but the one I was talking about was at it was at Will's.
Yeah, I remember that one too. Yeah, it was Will, yeah.
Okay, I remember that one.
And that was, and you was there. That was
A lot of healing.
It was a lot of healing. It was a lot. I mean, I needed that. But the thing is, though, right, and that's the testament of it, right? Men do healing work. Right there, right, Baba? Men do healing work. You know, the mamas do what they do, but the men do it too, you know, and men got to get together to be able to do that work. You know, in this society, we make it to be, I mean, that the black man has to deal with his grief alone. And that's unacceptable, you know? You shouldn't have to deal with it alone. We got to get away from that type of narrative. You know, when you got a whole community of men, comrades, and brothers, pull on them. You know, allow them to be in your corner. Allow them to show up for you.
Let me pop in. Brothers struggle in that area because there's a misconception about what it means to be a man. It's a misconception about what it means to be a black man because we're looking, in most instances, we're looking more at what this society has projected, and we seek to emulate that. Case in point, you know, that's why I'm in African manhood in the 21st century. I debunk the idea of men can't be vulnerable. I debunk the fact that they say men can't be gentle. Yes, you should be gentle with your wife. You should be gentle with your children. You be aggressive with your enemy. You know what I'm saying? You don't got to bring the way you deal with your enemy. You don't bring that into your home. You know, when you, the man you are in your home is not the man you are when you out there on the battlefield. But too many individuals can't do that. They take that same person or thing there. So yes, when it comes to transition, brothers go through it and they suffer alone. They suffer alone. And the reason they suffer alone is because they're still trying to make some sense out as to whether or not can I be vulnerable, or is my vulnerability make me appear to be weak, right? But we don't understand like weak to be weak. That's multi-layered. You know what I'm saying? You know, you got to understand that no, you're not weak in a cowardice sense if you're vulnerable, right? But you can be weak in that moment because something is weighing upon you, right? That's the same way if you line 10 of us up and you got us carrying boulders, one of us is going to give out first. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we're a coward. We just couldn't carry that load no more, that particular load. So we needed the assistance of the brothers that was there to pull together or figure something out. Well, how can we help Baba so we can continue to carry this load? That's what it's about. We got to understand it that way. So, yeah, you can be weak in an instance because you're carrying a load that's at that particular moment is just too psychologically overwhelming for you in that moment. So you need a little relief. And that relief for the black man should be and can be other black men. Other black men can create the space to lift up black men. And we have to be able to do that. We got to get to that so we can do what? We can begin to heal our families, bring them back to wholeness, bring our boys to wholeness, and bring ourselves to wholeness. Because if we don't do that, if we keep walking around with these internal fractures and breakages inside of us because we have wounds that we have not did the work on, and those wounds are just further opening up, we harm the people that we love when you carry that around. The people that you love, you harm them because you can't have wholeness with brokenness. And there can't be no whole circle if it's fractured, right? The fractures have to be mended. That's work. And that's one of the reasons why we struggle in relationships, in family, in organizations, because so many people want to maintain brokenness. They want to maintain and sustain brokenness because I'm afraid to deal with it because I wrongly believe if I deal with brokenness that it makes me look weak. So I don't want to look weak. So I'm going to hold on to all this broken stuff inside of me, all this psychological fractures, mental confusion, emotional dismemberment. I'm going to carry all that junk and destroy my relationship, destroy my family, destroy this organization, run the community down. No, we have to work together the way that we've been working. And one of the things that I've been doing, I've strived to do since I've been doing this work for PLM is to facilitate and create a space wherein we can build community together, because community is a living entity. It's a living entity. And because it's a living entity, it requires other living entities in conjunction with it to further grow it out. So the community can in turn do what? Grow you out. So it's a dialogical relationship between you and community. It's not this loose thing that we throw around. It's something that's real, that has substance and meaning. So when we talk about death, death is a part of the community. The phenomenon death is a part of the community because death is life. Death is life. Death and life are one and the same. There is no fracture like we think, you know what I'm saying? You don't live and then you quote unquote die, and dying is a fracture and then something else start up. No, it's a continuum. It's a continuum, and you transition out of physical reality back into spirit reality. It's just a continuum. But what throws us off is that the sacred ground for those who transition in this society is oftentimes miles away from your home, miles away from the family. And that's a problem. That's a problem. See, where we lay the bodies of those sacred people that mean something to us to be close to us. Because the closer they are to you, it keeps them in remembrance. And you can spend time with them more. But when they're 25 and 30 miles away, out of sight, out of mind. But the death transition is a part of us. It's no stranger. It's a companion to who we are. It's a part of this process that we call life. It's built into that. We have to learn to embrace it, but we can only embrace it when we come to understand it. And I'm not saying we're going to understand it in its absolute sense, but we must make sense of the phenomenon, death, and see it as being transition. That allows us to exercise agency. We can exercise agency. We can take control of our lives when we have a sense of what's happening. And when you don't have a sense of what's happening, there is no agency, only hopelessness or despondency sets in. Right? And we have to get past that. We have to get past that and get to a place where we can be hopeful and joyous and optimistic, even in the face of transition, even in that experience. And that's why it's very important for you to do the meaningful things now. While you are here, do the meaningful things now. Do the things now that add substance and meaning to your life and the lives of those other individuals. So in the event of your transition, you are remembered, and you remember because you did the right things. We can't remember, we cannot and will not call the names of those who do all the wrong things. And then you die. You fall into oblivion. No one wants to remember you. So do the right thing. Show up. Play your part. Don't betray your community. Don't betray your race. Right? Don't be disloyal. Don't speak bad against. Don't disrespect the ancestors. Right? Don't defile sacred ground, sacred space, sacred places. Right? Don't steal from your brothers and your sisters. Don't defraud the elders. Don't turn your back on your brothers and your sisters. Don't destroy Black familyhood. Don't meddle in the lives of people you're not going to be in their lives. Don't do that. Don't womanize. Don't manize. You know what I'm saying? Don't do those things. When we do what's right.
That's a book plug right there, Baba. Let them know where to get African Manhood in the 21st Century.
Yes. About that. But that's what it's all about, though, man. We got to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
What say you, comrades? Last words. We got 2 minutes.
Find a community that is authentically doing this work and build into it. You can't do it by yourself. You can't do it alone. It can't start with you and end with you. It has to be a continuation.
Good. Anyone else? Last thoughts. Come on, get y'all. Got 1 more minute.
The power of the ancestor returning. Just remember that our children are our ancestors returning. They are sacred. They must be poured into, and they must be socialized properly. Let's get it.
One more minute. Let's go. We got 60 seconds.
In that ritual that Brother Deesa talked about, Baba Deesa talked about earlier, I was up in there and I actually cried. It shook me. It wasn't even for me, and it affected me. So vulnerability is key is needed. Don't be afraid to cry. Sometimes, you know, I got that little cry not come right here, and I swallowed it down. But when I let it all flow and let it all go, you feel much better. So, to all my brothers out there that's watching this and wrestling with some things, 'cause I'll be running across some brothers wrestling with some things. Let it out, brothers.
Ritual is meant to facilitate transformation. We do ritual in community. Thereby,
Yes.
community transforms us.
Yes, yes, beautiful, beautiful. Now we are at our 10 o'clock mark. Time for us to make our transition. It's always Black family. We appreciate you for joining with us tonight. Hopefully you heard something that resonated with you. We do our best to always bring you that authentic Black talk. Because like we said in the very beginning, we seek to raise the Black consciousness of Black people to restore Black thought to the Black mind. Having said that, join us again. We will be returning back here real soon. Make sure you join us. If you have not subscribed to the page, please subscribe to the page. Like the page. Big it up. Help us get the content out. And with that, we say, be before you and raise first. Stay up. Stay strong. Stay on the path. Peace and blessings.
Race first.
Race first.
Race first.